am the one that helps Matt with all these events. I'm very excited. We have Kamau and Selena here. We have a lot of familiar faces here too. That's amazing. I wanted to share my screen. We made these, a few fancy little slides, which we're pretty excited about. So we're gonna we're gonna do that first. Okay. If you could you put in the chat where you're calling in from? And if this is your first, second, third, 80th event with the Nomadic Network, I love to see how many people have been to. And I also love to gauge how new the community is, or if you guys are longtime community members. I just wanted to give a quick overview for people that are, hold on one second. All right, wonderful. For people that are very new, just as to what the Nomadic Network is and all that's happening here. So basically, this whole network was started by Nomadic Matt, and I've helped him run it from the beginning. It was last year that we started it, a few months before the pandemic hit, and the whole idea was basically to have people meet up in person. We wanted you to find your community. We wanted to connect you with resources and people that can teach you how to travel better, cheaper, longer, smarter, more, And so we had really great in-person events. These are some photos of those. And then the coronavirus hit and we switched everything to virtual. And so now this is what they all look like. Also, Carmela, I know you're on. Could you just let people into the event? Thank you.
Yep.
All right, perfect. Carmela runs Flight, Matt's nonprofit. So she's on and here to support Selena and Kamau. And we're so excited to have her here too, calling in from Hawaii. Anyway, I digress. Okay, so we've done all these virtual events and it's been so cool because we have people like Kamau and Selena who are calling in from New Jersey right now. We have Carmela in from Hawaii. We have so many people in from all over the world, and we get to bring you these incredible speakers that are literally from all over the world, and people are listening from all over the world. So it's really great. And then I just wanted to go over some housekeeping. So first of all, you can keep your camera on during this discussion. It's really nice to see people's faces. It makes it more community feeling, but you will be muted because there's a lot of us. Feel free to type in your questions as you go. There will be a Q&A to follow. The chat is there for us to connect. It's there for us to ask questions, to share your relevant experiences. If somebody asks a question, feel free to answer it in the chat. It is really helpful if you start all your questions with question, just so I can keep track of them for the Q&A. Also, replays are available at patreon.com. So if you come in or have to leave early or come in late, then you could do that. I just also wanted to remind you that we're here to listen, satiate your wanderlust, and just have fun. These are free community events. We're so happy to have you here. We're so happy to have Kamau and Selena here, and we're so excited. And the last note is our speakers are doing this out of the kindness of their hearts. They are not paid for this. They really just want to share their expertise, their travels, their knowledge, everything with you. So number one, we're very grateful. Number two, be sure to connect with them because, this is really an incredible opportunity that we're, connecting you with these resources. Kamau and Selena have a lot to teach. They have a lot to give, and we're so excited to have them. So I won't do a whole spiel about Kamau and Selena, but just know that they have full-time jobs and they travel a ton, and that's what they're teaching us about today. So we're very excited to hear from them. And so without further ado, I will stop sharing my screen and so they can get started. Welcome, Kamau and Selena.
Hi.
Hello, everyone.
Let me share our presentation. We swear it's not that long. Can you guys see? Can you see it? Okay.
All right.
Cool.
Okay. So then we'll start going. Yeah?
Yeah.
All right. Hi. Hey, kids. My name is Kamau. I'm half of the workforce behind the City and Beyond, and we're working towards developing a space in the travel community specifically for part-time travelers.
And I'm Selena Asphalt, the other half of the workforce behind the City and Beyond. And we're very excited to talk about maximizing the travel you can do right now by using a couple of our part-time travel tips.
So part-time travel is what a lot of full-time employees do. Work about 40 hours a week and then try their best to travel with the time off that they're allowed or allocated. So our YouTube channel encourages those employees to optimize their paid time off by traveling. So if you have a full-time or part-time job and you go places, congratulations, you are a part-time traveler. Welcome to the club. You have a community. All right. So today we're going to share 3 techniques we constantly share with our audience about traveling part-time. But now, in light of the pandemic, we find it's also relevant for anyone, anywhere that's trying to get away. So with that said, we want to quickly touch on 3 points and our best to leave plenty of time for discussion. So we'll get started.
Yeah.
Okay, so we're gonna get the most obvious one out of the way, local trips. Whenever we say part-time travel, people are like, oh, so you guys just like go somewhere, weekend trips and travel locally. Yes, we do.
That's not all we do.
That's not all we do, but we're gonna get that out the way. So that's like not a topic of discussion, okay? All right, so we live in New Jersey and we're right off the Hudson River separating us from New York City. And we can actually see the Freedom Tower from our kitchen. So we kind of have a better view than a lot of people in New York City do, but besides the point. So having a weekend in Manhattan or Brooklyn is a quick train, bus, ferry, or a car ride for us, and it definitely won't break the bank. Like, it'll be cheaper than your meal at Sweet Green, absolutely. So even though Selena is originally from New York, and I've lived in New Jersey for most of my life, we still find new things to see and do all over this area alone.
And a good example of this is last year we went to Staten Island to film a vlog, and we spent the day there, fun exploring, and at the end of the day, we're like, wow, we just drive home like 30 minutes and we're there, like we're home right away. And it felt like we were somewhere really distant, maybe even Connecticut, who knows, let's go crazy. But it's like parts of New Jersey touch like right next to Staten Island. So it felt like we were so far, but it was just because it was new stomping grounds. And so it was nice. That's a good example of like just how you can be local, but feel like you're not home at all. Another example is if we have anybody that lives in England, I'm going to shout out Banbury, UK in England. It's a small, quaint town, but if you live in London and you go there, it's so small and you may have never heard or seen it. I've talked to many people and they're like, where did you go? And the people are great. There's, different cuisines there. There's just like, it's small but mighty.
So we had an ongoing challenge with our audience, and the challenge, it's slightly on hiatus due to the pandemic, but I'm willing to take requests because I'll do it anyway, all right? But it goes like this. If you think your area is boring, invite us out and we'll find something cool to do.
Yeah.
It's a bold statement, I know, but it's absolutely true, because sometimes people are very surprised with the amount of stuff that we experience in a given area, or the amount of time that we're there and all the things that we do. And honestly, in the end, you'll lose because it's about the journey and not the destination. I'm gonna have fun going there anyway because it's a place I've never experienced before. And that's what it's all about, right? So other times people tell us we've missed some stuff and there's more to do. And that's really what we're trying to focus on. So if we can't find anything, it's still fun for us.
Yeah.
And the way that we do it is like if we drive a half hour south or an hour north, it's almost like a different world. There's different museums, there's different parks, there's different mountains, there's different events. There's so much for you to explore. And we're sure there's lots and lots and lots of things for you to do as well. The last time we went to California, we were in Anaheim and we went to a speakeasy, and a few of the locals told us that they didn't even know it existed. So believe us, there are plenty of hidden and not so hidden gems everywhere.
This will help you during the pandemic because many friends, family, fans have told us that they just miss like the feeling of looking forward to going somewhere. You know, like those months before you even go on your trip, you're still excited and people miss just that feeling. And after the lockdown across the globe, expectations for travel is pretty low. Like, let's be honest here. Like, we just want to go somewhere. And traveling locally can fulfill that like urge and that need. We've traveled this year so far only in America. Well, Kamau might
Mostly.
Yeah, he says mostly because we came back from a trip earlier in January. But for most of this year, we've been in America. We've traveled to places like Charlotte and Asheville in North Carolina, the Poconos of Pennsylvania. A couple of weeks ago, we were just in Washington, D.C., Lancaster, Pennsylvania, if anyone, shout out to Amish country. And we are planning to go on a couple of more trips. And, you know, I really wanted to go to Europe, but obviously Europe is not letting us in right now. So we are trying to move our plans around, and local travel really does help us to be like optimistic about it.
Yeah.
But let's talk about what happens when you're at the destination really quick.
So when we plan our activities, it's usually around the outdoors or in isolated events like an activity like lazy tube riding. That way we can still like distance each other and still hang out and have a good time. This is during the pandemic, not during like usual times. Usual times
You can do it.
I mean, either or, take it to your flavor. It doesn't matter. So we've gotten very, very creative with the way that we go about it. So we also don't dine in or do outdoor dining, and we kind of never did anyway. So this is nothing really new to us. If that's for you, that's cool, but it's not my bag. So
and during the pandemic, you might not want to.
Yeah, but we usually do takeaway. So as a result, when we're planning our accommodations, we try to keep the more important things in mind, because usually frequent travelers care less about how up to date or how spacious their accommodations are. But these days you kind of need to pay attention to it. So for instance, like we do takeaway. So when we go to a location, I prefer to have a stove, an oven, possibly a hot plate, because a microwave sometimes is just not cutting it, all right? You can warm up your food if you want to in a pinch in a microwave, that's on you, man. I like the pan, I like the oven, that's my bag. I will take a toaster oven in a pinch, but usually I want a full oven.
Unless he's really hungry.
Unless I'm really hungry, and then it's not going down. All right. Then we usually try to find a spacious location so that you can walk the grounds. The last two locations that we were in Pennsylvania, it was actually sitting on acres of land. So we got to explore the forest and the woodland that are around it, and we got to see so many different things without having to leave anywhere. And I got to fly my drone and no one could bother me. So like, it was completely amazing. And some places even have petting zoos. It's very true. Please check on Airbnb. But this is a whole other conversation. So let's get back to our next point,
which is compound trips. We think we came up with this term on our own, like we made this up. But let me explain by giving you a couple examples. So we had a trip to Barcelona, and during that trip, we got to experience Venice, Rome, and Lisbon. Another trip, when we went to Nepal, we got to stop in Qatar. Our honeymoon to New Zealand last December allowed us to experience Singapore and Frankfurt. And our last time in Vancouver, we also got to enjoy Seattle and Dallas.
So to define it for you, if it wasn't completely clear, a compound trip is the trip where you plan to visit more than one destination during your journey. Sometimes intended, other times it's because of a layover or a stopover. When you compound your trips, you're able to get a taste of another destination without breaking the bank, and usually without going out of your way at all. And you may be saying to yourself, how does this help me during a pandemic? Well, since travel is limited these days, you should use a fine-tooth comb through the cities or countries that you can travel to. And if you're flying to one destination, look at a map, see where else you can visit, don't have tunnel vision, and you may find a trip that you can compound.
Exactly. So a bonus tip to that, look at nearby airports to the city that you want to visit. And we've actually compounded our trips by flying into a cheaper airport and driven or trained to another. So, for example, just in case that was confusing, we had a trip to Nashville in 2018, and we had a year of part-time travel. Little plug for our YouTube channel if you want to find out what that was. It was a lot of trips in 1 year, and as we said, we have full-time jobs. So by the end of the year, our family wanted to go to Nashville for New Year's Eve and ring in the new year there. And we're like, we can't really give, pass on trips. We love just like, especially with our family. So we were like, we're going to try to make this happen. And we made a budget. And Nashville during New Year's Eve, I don't know how many people know on this call, really expensive, but that's the holiday season in general. So we're like, but if you know me, I am very, like, if we have a budget, I'm like determined to get that number or less. I'll take less, maybe a couple dollars over. So I was like, we can do this. Like, so I'm looking at the map. I'm like, how can we make this happen? So first we thought that maybe we could fly to Charlotte and then drive to Nashville. I know some of you are thinking that's crazy if you are currently looking at a map or just know American, like where all the states are. But we've done worse. We've done worse. So we were like, okay, maybe we'll fly to Charlotte, drive to Nashville, and we'll spend the time there and then drive back to Charlotte and fly home. Or maybe it'll be cheaper to have a one-way from Nashville. We were trying everything. But the price was still kind of like crazy. And then we were like, well, that's a lot of driving and it cuts out like a whole day, blah, blah, blah. So I'm still staring at the map and I'm like, what about these neighboring states near Tennessee? And I'm like, what about Kentucky? What's, I don't really know any cities in Kentucky. So I looked up major cities, major airports, and there was one in Louisville. Louisville is a couple hours away from Nashville. So I look up the flights and behold, we got our $100 decrease in price. So we got those tickets and we were able to fly into Louisville, experience it, learn a little bit about bourbon, get to know, we even went to the movies, saw Aquaman, I believe, right?
I think it was Aquaman.
We saw Aquaman. And then we drove to Nashville, had our fun with our family, and then a couple of days later, drove back to Louisville and flew out from there. So that's a good example of like, you get to experience a whole new destination without it taking away from your trip, but just adding to it. And this is easily done in places like Southeast Asia and Europe, if you're thinking outside of the country, outside of America, because there's so many trains and cheap airlines like Ryanair and stuff like that.
Right.
So it's really easy to add those compound city trips, and don't be intimidated by it.
So another way to do compound trips is stopovers. We mentioned this before, but it's its own category. So stopovers refer to staying longer than 24 hours in any given city on your travel itinerary, whereas a layover is for less. So let's say you're going from New York City, airport of your choosing, and heading to California, and you have a stop in Chicago and you're there for 2 hours. That is a layover. But say that stop in Chicago is 36 hours, that is a stopover, because you can go out and explore and things of that nature. And stopovers are a great way to go about it because, I mean, we kind of have this saying where it's like, if you go somewhere and you stay on the resort, did you really go there, right? So it's kind of like, if you go to a layover, it's not like you didn't really get to go to it. So a stopover gives you a chance to actually go out and experience these things.
Yeah.
A few years ago, we actually stumbled upon the beauty of stopovers, but now we intentionally seek them out.
Really?
And some of the perks of stopovers are you get to experience a new destination without having to fully commit to it. Especially if you're slowly trying to get out of your comfort zone. You can like dip your toe into the culture, get back to the airport and go to wherever you're going, right? It can serve as a vacation from your vacation. Our stopover in Portugal was like this for us in 2017. We were decimated, completely exhausted from our trip to Italy and Spain. And when we got to Portugal, it was all about relaxing in the hotel and barely sightseeing, but we can't say that we were there if we stayed in the hotel. So we went out for a little bit, we got some gin, we saw the tiles, we spoke with locals, and then went right back to the hotel, had some gin and tonics, went to sleep, hopped on the bus, and flew home, and felt completely re-energized. We didn't need that extra day to recuperate because that extra day was in Portugal. How great is that, right? And so it can also kickstart your trip. If you place your stopover at the beginning of your final destination, it can get you pumped up for all the travels you're about to experience. And this actually happened for us when we went to New Zealand. We had a stopover in Frankfurt, and actually at one of the nomadic meetups in Manhattan, someone gave us a couple of recommendations. They gave us
True story.
True story. He gave us like 6 recommendations, and I think we made it about 4 or 5 of them in there. We got to have some glue wine. We got to hear the chiming of the bells. It was a great time, and I don't think we would have been able to do it without some sort of guidance. So, and then when we went back to the airport, it was like, wow, we still have to go to New Zealand. Like we still have the whole trip to experience. So stopover is a great way for you to experience another country or another destination.
Yeah. And so how does this help you during the pandemic? Presently, it may not help you. Considering every country and state are really trying to keep people out. But we think that this will be helpful technique once things start to open up a little bit more and things start to develop a lot more. Once people feel more and more secure in flying and more destinations welcome more residents from other countries, it will allow like you to have like a really quick stop and check things out before you go. If you're in America, there are stopovers within the country. It's not only overseas. I think that's usually what people think. And honestly, I feel like that's what we thought as well. But there are stopovers, and there are some cities who encourage you to come out pre-pandemic. But we actually had a stopover in Dallas, as I mentioned earlier, when we were heading to Vancouver. And it was a fun, like, 24 hours, probably less. And it definitely gave us that urge to come back for a proper visit.
Oh, I got a tip. So pro tip is some airlines actually provide stopovers and give you a hotel and or a discounted, for a discounted amount while you're in town, and give you these perks, rather, for free. So there is, for a quick rundown of the ones that we know off the top of the head, it's Etihad, United Emirates, Qatar Airways, TAP Portugal, and Air Canada. We've done Air Canada, TAP Portugal, Qatar, and to an extent Singapore. We didn't get to take advantage of Singapore completely.
Like the activity, the tours.
They offered a free tour to go with it, and if you've been to Singapore, you know that you can spend the whole day in Changi and never actually leave. I feel like that's a loophole so that you didn't get to experience is going to the Changi airport, because it's like a city in and of itself. With Qatar, they actually gave us a free hotel with our stay. So while we were in Qatar, I like to tell people the prince paid for it because the royal family owns the airline. So some of these airlines actually give you like some really good perks. It takes a little bit of digging, but you can find it.
Yeah. So in conclusion, really quick, a few of our videos go over these 3 points a little bit more in depth on our YouTube channel. Plug. Usually it would pop up somewhere, but we're live. We didn't want to jam all the information into this one presentation, but we hope that you actually get the idea of what we're trying to say.
If you don't, what are your questions? Is it traveling during the pandemic, part-time travel, or even about our travels? Oh, and then
this is us.
This is us. This is where you can find us. Thank you for your time.
Amazing! Oh, thank you. Well, leave that up for a second just so people can follow you. Also, I just want to say, I just popped your YouTube link in twice. Aside from world peace, Kamau and Selena are hoping to get to 1,000 YouTube subscribers. So if everyone on this call could just subscribe to their YouTube, that's also where you can connect with them, contact them, and learn about, more about their travels and all this sort of stuff. So if we could just take a moment and do that, that would be incredible. And
That'd be
probably
awesome.
like,
Yes.
you want to do a good deed for someone, it's like that. There you go. Check. All right. Yeah, we have some questions, but definitely feel free to ask more questions in the chat. Kamau and Selena, that was great. I really love the term compound trips. Never heard that term before, but I've definitely used it, and incredible just resource, incredible tip, and an incredible way to think about it. Because I think a lot of people think like, I want to get to my destination, or and so I'm always looking for that like 2-hour layover or the like 39-hour layover or the stopover where I can like actually do things.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, Vic subscribed. Great. Awesome.
Oh, thank you.
Awesome. I also subscribe from Nomadic Match channel, so you got Nomadic Match subscribers. Wonderful. Okay, so I'll start with some of the questions that already came through, but I see some questions coming in. Out of curiosity, I know you said this was a challenge, but what were some of the boring places that you've been to because people said they were boring?
Okay, so people didn't actually recommend them. It was when we went to those locations, they were like, why did you go there? And I was like, we're like, because we never went. Like, has anyone been to Concord, New Hampshire? Anybody? When people from New Hampshire are like, why are you here?
Yeah, that was a really interesting
That was a
trip.
good one,
Yeah. But I enjoyed it just because I was like, no one else is doing this.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, that's amazing.
In New York.
Kingston,
well, it's up and
Kingston's
coming.
kind of up and coming, yeah.
And Honesdale, Pennsylvania.
Honesdale, Pennsylvania is another one. Yeah.
Outside of that, I mean, I've been to like Banbury. Well, we went to Banbury together.
We went to Banbury together.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But yeah, there's like, we like to kind of just wander off.
Yeah.
Yeah. How do you get to these places? I mean, these are not like the Nashvilles and the Chicagos of the US. So what brings you to these places? Do you find a hotel? Like,
family, friends, events? Like, say, we'll stick with Concord, for example. Concord was like, we were looking for something to do for New Year's. We picked New England, but didn't know where exactly. And then we saw like this one random event, and we're like, okay, so we'll just go to this event, and then just figure out the rest when we go there.
And then we found out we should have went to Manchester instead.
Yeah. But yeah.
Yeah. And we went to, we had like a goal of like finishing out the Northeast. And I think most of New England was the rest of it.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah. Cool. I also see something pretty beautiful happening in the chat, which is people saying like my city's not cool, and then other people saying actually it is, like, let me help you. Which is sort of the whole point of being travelers and being in a community like this. Like, I met Kamau and Selena at a Nomadic Network meetup. And so it's just like, that is what this whole community is for. And we're so excited, at the prospect of maybe one day, hopefully soon in the future, being able to gather again. And just like a little reminder, on the Nomadic Network website, like, you can pick chapters that you'd like to be a part of. So, even if you want to be a part of more than one chapter, like if you were just like fluid and living all over California, you could be a part of all the chapters. But yeah, I love that. And I feel like, aside from meeting Kamau and Selena, I also met Carmela at a Nomadic Mat meetup, and now she's working with us and running our whole nonprofit. So there's lots to be done at these meetups, and there's a lot of magic happening when you meet other travelers. So That wasn't really a question. We have a question from Manjul, who is saying they need a compound trip idea from Virginia to Florida. Do you have anything for them?
Flying, driving, or taking the train.
Oh,
Let's say
So
driving.
if you're driving, if you're driving, I suggest that you stop somewhere in South Carolina, because South Carolina is kind of the quiet hidden gem. I feel like a lot of people go to North Carolina, a lot of people go to Georgia, et cetera, but South Carolina will be a nice place to break up your trip, because actually when we took the trip to North Carolina, Virginia is like the majority of the trip from New Jersey down to North Carolina. So since you're starting in Virginia, you're already ahead of the race. You're good. You're good. So just stop in South Carolina, go to somewhere, Charleston, or go to one of the border towns right outside of Charlotte. You'll probably have some of the best coffee you've ever had in your entire life, and there's plenty to do. Plenty to do. So South Carolina is my recommendation. Where in South Carolina will be up to you, but South Carolina.
Yeah, on the way down.
On the way down, yes.
That's awesome. And I just shared PAX Light Instagram. Gabby is like all over Virginia this week, and she has been posting insane travel blogs and vlogs all on her Instagram, all about Virginia. I lived in Virginia for 3 years. I did not see anything as cool as what Gabby is seeing. So, but that's a great one. I've never been to South Carolina. Can you say if you've been to South Carolina in the chat? I'm curious. Katie Wynn is asking, what about Indianapolis? This is where she's from. And have you ever been there? And do you know if it's boring or not?
Funny story for you.
Yeah.
I went to school in Fort Wayne. I have been to Indianapolis. Indianapolis is not boring. It's been a while since I've been there, but you can definitely find things to do, for sure. I know that like contrast from New Jersey to Indiana, I had slight culture shock, but like I got acclimated to it pretty quick, and there's lots and lots to do. There's lots and lots to do, aside from bars, churches, and otherwise.
Yeah.
Hoosier, stand up. What? No. Oh man, the Fort Wayne comments. I haven't heard that in a while.
I haven't done that yet. We're supposed to go together.
Yeah.
That is hilarious that you say bars and churches, because one of my favorite things to do in Indianapolis is I went to the basement of a church, which was like a artist haven, and they were just making paper mache dragons and stuff like that. It was pretty incredible. So there's always cool things to do.
There is.
Where you are. How funny. What a small world. Okay, you went to school in Indiana. Very nice. And then I am curious, like, do you research these places you go to, or do you just sort of wander in real life and find the cool things to do by talking to people, or just what you see?
Combination of both.
Yeah, I would say a little bit of
Combination of both.
Because, like, for example, like I see a lot of people saying Charlotte, South Carolina. We haven't, or not Charlotte, Charleston, and we've been to like Rock Hill.
Yeah, Rock Hill.
South Carolina, which like no one really knows, or was it the other one, Tegan K? Tega K, I think is the other one, and that's like right on the border of North Carolina, and that only happened because we were in Charlotte, and we're like, just go, like we're close by, and then we just kind of went, and we have friends in Charlotte. So they were like, yeah, there's like some places over there. There's not much there. And then we like came back and we're like, man, we did this and this and this. And it just like kind of happens because we just like, we're open to just kind of wandering. I feel like a lot of people are scared to wander because then it's that fear of like nothing coming of it and you like wasting your day, especially if you are a part-time traveler, because you're like, I have these 5 days or these 3 days and that's it. So I can't waste time like getting in the wrong city when I could have been in the hip city and stuff like that. But I feel like if you kind of let yourself kind of wander, you'll find something kind of cool, or they'll point you in the right direction.
And if you're really having like difficulty like getting into a place that you've been in, what you can do is you can go to a thrift store or an antique store and just check out the history of the place through the people that live there. Because like the further west you go, the more people are like, oh look, we got space, we can like move out. So like things start to change because it becomes localized as opposed to like in this area where everyone's kind of on top of each other. So you'll pretty much find the same thing here and there, but the further out you go south or westward, you start to see like what the culture is in that particular area. So it's a good thing and a conversation starter.
And the benefit of obviously 2020, you know, like us being so advanced in technologies, we have Google Maps. Like I grew up in a time where my family did have to pull out like the paper map. So like I know the struggle there, driving around and like, wait, no, turn. But we have Google Maps, and I totally just stared at the map and like, man, like where can we go or what's over here? And like all you have to do is zoom in. So you don't, and you can do walk around, drop the little yellow man and you get to walk around. I mean, I guess I did it a lot for work because we did canvassing, so we kind of need to know like what was around. So like I'm used to being like, let me see this area before I go over to it, and kind of like scrolling through the streets and finding little things. So I'm like, oh, this would be actually kind of fun.
Yeah. I'm also really big on just picking like a random country's food and seeing if it's in that area and expanding out from there. Like, oh, I want some cow soy. It's like, where is the best Thai food in this area?
That just happened, yeah.
Oh, I love that. I sort of feel like you give yourself little prompts or something like that. Like you sort of have, is this true? It feels like you sort of board, like these are the things we'll sort of go through to be on board. That's a really good idea. Also, I've never heard of the thrift store thing, and that is a great tip. Great tip. Have you found anything weird in any of the thrift stores you've been to?
Where was a bookstore in Kingston?
There was a bookstore in Kingston. Actually, I got one, but you weren't there with me. I was in Edmonton, Alberta, in Canada, and they had World War II memorabilia from people that came back, and like glass displays, and they had the Allies and the Nazis like stationed there. It was actually like kind of crazy. So you do find like interesting things when you go there, because who would think that you would find that there?
Yeah,
like a museum.
Yeah, almost like a museum. Yeah,
a free museum.
A free museum that you can not actually buy things and take out.
Yeah.
So interesting. I love, you know, the very quirky kind of travel. Like everyone goes to the major sites, everyone goes to the nice restaurants, but like how many people have gone to a thrift store in Kingston or a thrift store in, you know, anywhere?
Yeah.
It's really, I like the way you guys think. Okay, we have a question from Melissa that says, how much time is spent in each destination? I think this was during the compound trips section. So like, I guess when you're doing a compound trip, like what are you looking for? What kind of time frame?
It depends. It depends on the trip and what the main event is how long we stay there and whether or not we planned for it. Because it's not like we're going to one place and then saying, oh, we want to stay here longer, we're going to book it for 2 more days, and then the final destination will book out. Like if I fly to Buffalo to get some wings, I'll stay there for the day and then maybe go to Niagara Falls the next day because it's right there, like 20 minutes away. And then I'm like, but the main event is Toronto. I'm going to drive the hour and a half north to get to Toronto, and that's where it's going to be the main. So it really depends on you, really. So if you want to explore more of the places on the way there, then you're going to have to like accommodate for it. But you should use it kind of like a stopover as a transition location in order for you to like maximize it.
Yeah, because I think some of our favorite cities actually came out of compound trips.
Yeah,
like,
a lot of them.
Like Canada specifically. I'm thinking of like Vancouver and Toronto. Those 2 cities were day trips. Like we were staying somewhere else. So for Toronto, we were in Niagara Falls, and that literally came out of Kamau being like, I want to go to the first place that had buffalo wings. And we went, and we were like, but why stay in Buffalo when we could go to Niagara and go into Canada? So we went into Canada, and then he's like, hey, Toronto's not that far. Have you ever been there? And then I was like, I mean, let's just go for a day. And like it doesn't take anything away from the trip, spending like 1 day. And like well, unfortunately, we liked it so much that we're like, man, we wish we were staying here, but like that makes you go back. And the same thing happened in Vancouver. We were in Seattle, and we were like, have you ever been to Vancouver? And then we're like, let's just go for like a day or two out of our trip, and then come back to Seattle. And it ended up being, well, that's where, well, spoilers, that's where we got married.
Aww. Also, I'm listening to you talk about your travels, and I'm thinking like you guys were traveling during the pandemic before the pandemic even happened. Like traveling like it was the pandemic. Like this is how you hear of people traveling right now. They're like 2 days in Buffalo, and I'm gonna rent a car, and I'm gonna go here for an afternoon because I just need to like get out of my house. And I feel like that's such a refreshing way to travel because I feel like a lot of people, especially, I mean, I'm definitely guilty of not locally traveling. And so the fact that we can't travel right now is sort of like, oh, I can't get on a plane. I can't go into another country. But you guys are like, all right, let's just do what we've always done, which is like hop, skip, and jump around the country and find these little quirky places. And so I think, you know, you guys sort of set yourself up for success during this pandemic. Do you agree?
Yeah. It's like even with DC, I mean, the only added difficult or like thing that we have to maneuver around is like, what do we do once we get there? And it's like we try to do a lot of, like I think Kamau said at that point, of like try to do outdoor events, get an Airbnb that's really dope, like that, like had like the alpaca petting zoo like is a real thing. We were gonna go to Portland, and there's one there, and we were like, look, we already have something to do, just checking into our Airbnb, and like so like. That's been like we've been getting really creative, which I think will help us even more once things open up.
Yeah.
Cool. Amazing. Okay, let's see. We have a question from Linda, who's asking for safety tips during road trips and during the coronavirus. Do you have any safety tips?
Actually, we did a whole video on it. So yeah, I was a Boy Scout. So I keep a first aid kit in my car at all times. It's absolutely positively essential. And when I know I'm gonna have a rental car, I keep one in my bag. So that is number one. If you are in your own car and you know you're going to go somewhere cold, they sell collapsible shovels. That's a good one to have on you in case you get stuck in the snow, okay? Make sure your license is good for the next 6 months, just in case you get pulled over. You don't want any mishaps because you slipped and forgot your mind. Make sure your tags are up to date. Make sure you had your car inspected, tires rotated. What's another safety precaution? If you don't feel safe, leave. Don't question it.
That's a really, like, it's really true. Like, if you don't feel, there's a reason. Your instincts are telling you to go.
Yeah, I can't think of anything else immediately. First aid kit, shovel, license, check the car.
Good music.
Oh yeah, good music is essential.
So you don't kill each other.
Yeah.
That's a safe.
Or a good book if you like the audiobooks. That's cool too. Or a podcast, right?
Yeah, a good podcast.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's for sanity.
Yeah.
That's awesome.
Oh, I got one more. I'm sorry.
Sure. Go ahead.
Go to Google Maps, zoom out for your trail, and get the offline version of your map because you do not know where the cell towers are going to go out.
Yeah.
So it's always good to at least know where you're going.
Yeah,
Great
I see a lot of head nods. Yeah, and that's good for travel in general.
Yeah, it's good for travel in general.
That doesn't have good, so.
Yeah, because dead zones are very random and they're very inconvenient.
Yeah.
So true. That's a great list. I love this, like, you know, Boy Scout representing, and you seem very, very prepared. That's awesome. We have another question from Rachel, who's asking, what's the best travel accident or unfortunate event that happened that ended up having a happy, interesting, or fun ending? The like bad time turned into good time. Do you recall anything?
I'm trying to think. The most recent bad thing I can think of is the night before our wedding we realized we lost our wedding ring.
Yeah, we were just talking about that. Yeah, that just happened. And again, we got married in Vancouver.
Yeah.
So that was traumatizing. But the good part was
we kind of just rolled with it.
we just. I mean, how can you be mad when you have like a beautiful day? If you guys like Seattle, Vancouver, there's lots of rain involved, and we were kind of like on the cusp of like off season. It was like about to start. But yeah, like how could we manage when you don't have rain?
we started at one hotel that we saw the first time we went there. And then we had like an Airbnb so that we can like prep, because I don't believe in like bad luck. So I saw her the day of the wedding. I didn't care. And so, but somehow in between the transition from the hotels to the Airbnb, the rings were misplaced. So I searched the car. We had someone ask lost and found. They let us go back and check the room. We couldn't find it. So then the day of the wedding, I woke up at like 6 or 7 in the morning and I drove to the nearest Walmart and I got Selena costume jewelry and I got me a $20 ring. And that's what we got married with. And now they're keepsakes.
Yeah. and a good story.
Yeah. Oh, and then another accident. We weren't really lost, but we kind of were. It was the first time we were in Vancouver. We were walking through Steamtown and we found Calabash Bistro.
That's probably the best one. Yeah.
And we actually got to sit down with the owner, who we've never seen since then. And he like bought us drinks and we all had a good time and a long conversation. And that is where we wound up having our reception. So.
Yeah, that was actually, that was probably like the best accident because that neighborhood is so sketchy, and but like we're from the city, like you know, like so we're like no whatever, just watch your pockets or whatever and not step in anything. But like and then we randomly saw the bistro and it was like a Caribbean dream because it was a Caribbean restaurant and I like saw on the menu there was sorrel and I was like, what? In Canada? Yeah.
And it's like the only Caribbean restaurant for like I can't think of another one in Vancouver. Oh no, there was one more. There was another one. We found another one recently. But
we found one.
Yeah, but that one was desolate. Like it was very random.
Yeah. So that was
the
best
one. Those are the best accidents.
Oh, I love it. I just love watching your faces while you're telling your travel stories because they just light up, you know? All of us have all these travel stories that just light us up. I think the last question is, for these very quick layovers, do you find that people are more likely to say, yes, I'll take you around because you're only there for like 18 hours rather than like if you were there for a week and asking to like stay with them? Or do you find that that's usually the case? People will meet up with you or no?
Sometimes it makes it hard.
Yeah, sometimes it's harder.
Yeah, like we're like, oh, like we only have this amount of time.
Yeah, I can't really think of a time where like someone was trying to like show us around.
But it's good to know like what, like that is like a time you don't want to like, oh, I'll just go wherever. It's like you kind of need to know where you want to go because you don't want to waste first. Yeah, it's kind of hard because you don't want to waste their time. Like, do you want to see them? But if you're fine with sitting in silence together and you just want to see each other, then that's fine too. But you definitely want to be like, okay, so when I land, can we, or when my train gets there or whatever, like, let's get dinner or let's get lunch, let's go see this, or take me to your favorite spot or something like that. That's probably usually
you're probably more likely to get someone to say, the next time you come, you should do blah 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 when they hear about the window of time that you're in, especially because people don't really know like your pace. I think it was we went to, I want to say Paris. We hit up like all the major attractions in one day and we're not deprived at all. And some people were like, how did you do it? And I was like, I mean, some of it you're kind of just like looking at stuff. How long are you gonna look and take pictures? You know?
Yeah,
so
sure.
So usually it's like the next time you come, I'm like, all right, I'm gonna just add this to the list, flag it on the map.
But I think that, I don't know, to answer the question, I guess it's like it really depends. but I would assume that you just need to make sure that you have like something you want to do with them versus like up in the air.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I have one more question, and then we'll sort of say our goodbyes for the night. It's very clear that you guys are super in love and in sync. And so I think the main question that I would like to know is, did you travel together before you got married, or did you travel together before you realized that like this is the person for you, and was that part of the decision?
Oh
Yeah,
yeah, yeah, for sure. Actually, so the first date that we had, I took Selena to the Grand Central Station, and there's an archway that you can whisper in, and then the person on the other side can hear completely, right? I'm sure some people have seen it on like TV shows, but if you didn't, it's cool. Try it out. So she didn't know, and she's the New Yorker, so that was like he kind of knows cool things. And then the second time that we went out, I was driving her home, and she lived like 20 minutes from this kind of area because we were at a friend's house. And on the way in, we're passing the entrance to the Lincoln Tunnel, and I look at her and I was like, "Do you want to get a dollar slice?" And she's like, "Yeah, okay, let's go." And I was like, "Okay, cool." And by that point, it was like 2 or 3 in the morning, so we just like scoped, just turned the car around and went. So from there, I kind of knew she was sort of like down for like whatever's going on.
Yeah, and I had tried, like, I studied abroad, and that was like one of the first time, I think it was like the second time I was out of the country. And I didn't do a lot after that for a while. So I was trying to get like a travel partner buddy, and it was just not working because, I mean, as much as I love my friends and they're great and all, but it was just not like they went to sleep all day, and I'm like, yo, if I could wake up at 5 a.m. for work, I can get up at 5 a.m. for myself when I'm on vacation, just so I can like actually have a full, full day, at least a full 12 hours or something. So like, I was kind of trying to find somebody to kind of go places with, and I think I had one trip before we started dating, like literally right before we started dating. Yeah, that was New Orleans. And then we started dating, and then we actually didn't realize that we both enjoyed going places in general until like I think like a few months in, because we went to go for your birthday somewhere. Yeah. And so I was like, sure. And I know it doesn't work for everybody that your life partner ends up being your travel partner, and that's okay. But it just so happens that mine ended up being like the right fit for both.
Yeah.
That's perfect. That's so perfect. Very, very last question. Doug was wondering, do you fold or use a fork and a knife for your dollar slice?
I
fold.
Yeah.
What are you talking
I don't know
about?
if I've ever seen anyone use a dollar slice with a fork.
Sorry, let's rewind to the beginning. New York, New Jersey. There is no knife and fork involved. I'm sorry, no.
I know patting pizza. I'm not about it. I can't even look at people who pat it. Yeah. I'm like, I respectfully look away.
Okay, perfect.
Yeah.
Kamau and Selena, this was amazing. I know we have had lots of questions and lots of very exciting answers, and I feel like you really made travel feel very accessible to us during the coronavirus, just like the way you approach travel, your attitude towards travel, and like how you sort of give yourself little prompts and little things to do. I love that, and I feel like I'm definitely gonna do that. I'm trying to leave somewhere this weekend, so I'm like, now the wheels are turning. I just wanted to quickly end with a little screen share. We're actually going to end on time tonight, which is so nice. Let me just show you this. So I would love to just shout out that we have a ton of events coming up. Tomorrow at the same time, we have Curb Free with Corey Lee. Corey Lee is coming to talk about how to publish a children's book about travel or whatever. And I think it's really cool because, I don't know, type into the chat if you've ever thought about like writing a book and then maybe it's turned into writing possibly a children's book or something else or a blog, and you just really don't know where to start. But if you've ever had an idea to like write a book or a children's book, let me know. And then to add on to that, on Thursday, we have David Farley coming, who's going to talk about the life of a travel writer, and he's amazing. He teaches college courses on writing. He teaches the Superstar Writing class with Nomadic Matt, and he's just like a very interesting human being altogether. So I'm very excited for that. Next Tuesday, we have Paige coming on teaching about camera confidence. She has a YouTube channel also, and so she'll be teaching all about YouTube stuff. And then we have Joe coming on next Thursday, who's going to teach about this like really revolutionary product that has kids and students from all over the world connecting with each other in a very real way. I heard about his product and I was like, please come teach our community about this, because I feel like our community would love to know about this. There's nothing to really buy or anything like that, but just knowing that there's something out there where kids can connect, from Virginia to Afghanistan to Bali, and over like social issues and things that are important. It's just really, really great. And then last but not least, on the slide, we have Stephanie, who is here. Wave, Stephanie. She's gonna do one on building self-confidence through solo travel. And that's like, in 2 weeks. But anyway, thenomadicnetwork.com/events. All of these are free. They're all just to get you really excited about travel, connected to your travel soul. And, I know a lot of us are stuck right now. So we just want to be able to be that light in your life, like, Selena and Kamau. Lovely presentation. Definitely did that for us tonight. I also wanted to share how, the coronavirus is not the greatest thing for the travel community. And so it would be really great. These are all free events, but if you wanted to, and if you had the means, there are 2 ways that you can support us. These do take a lot of time and energy to put together and put on. So we have a Patreon community where you can get all the replays. You also get personal stories and books and tickets to TravelCon and TravelCon virtual and all this sort of stuff for as little as $3 a month. So you can use the QR code or patreon.com/nomadicmat. Also, if you don't want to commit to something monthly, which you can cancel at any time anyway, there is a one-time donation for PayPal. So if you would like to support our team, that would be amazing. I'm biased because I'm on the team, but and then last but not least, thank you so much for being a part of our travel community. Thank you for turning your videos on. Thanks for being a part of the discussion, and thanks for showing up here. It has been incredible. I'm just going to give a shout out to The City and Beyond with Kamau and Selena. Please follow them on YouTube. Like, they did an incredible job tonight, and it's not easy to speak to dozens of people. And so I just wanted to shout them out, and it would just warm my heart if they got a ton of YouTube subscribers, since, after world peace, that's their biggest dream right now. So, all right. Have a wonderful night, everyone. Thank you so much for coming, and I'll see you tomorrow, 8 o'clock. Tomorrow. Bye.